So I would like to introduce you to Dr. Evan Finkelstein, who is an assistant professor of Maharishi Vedic Science here at Maharishi University of Management. Dr. Finkelstein has studied in numerous institutions. He earned his BA from Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania. He got his Master of Social Work from Yeshiva University in New York.
How did you find this out?
And a Master of Science of Creative Intelligence, as well as a PhD in Maharishi Vedic Science from MUM here. For his PhD degree, he received a Veda Vyasa Award for Outstanding Doctoral Scholarship. Dr. Finkelstein's dissertation was on Universal Principles of Life expressed in Maharishi Vedic Science and in the scriptures and writings of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Evan Finkelstein.
Kabawika does that very well. If you ever want someone to introduce you, she's good. So hopefully I'll be able to see what I've written here. The light's pretty much okay. So welcome to this short talk on Sukkot. For those of you who may not know, this is a sukkah. And a sukkah in Hebrew basically means a booth or a hut, a temporary dwelling. And in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, in the book called Vayikra, in the chapter called Emor, the parsha or the chapter called Emor, in the book of Vayikra, the Torah says this. So it says in that book of Moses, it says, quote, "And you shall take for yourselves on the first day," meaning the first day of the new month. Are the meaning here?
Oh yes, they are.
Yeah, good. I should hold them while I say this.
Okay.
She's going to get the things that we're told people to take. This is a set that was originally from the time of Moses. It's a little old, but it still works.
All right.
Oh, okay.
We have that
So,
also.
can you help? Can you help?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it says, "You shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of a beautiful tree, which is called the etrog in Hebrew. In English, it's called a citron. It's a kind of a citrus fruit, the etrog. And it says to take the branches of the date palm, which is this branch, this long one here, the tallest one. It's branches of a date palm, which in Hebrew is called a lulav. And also to take the branches of the myrtle tree." Where are they? Oh, they got kind of all put it together in the same one. Okay. So the branches of the myrtle tree are these, and there are 3 of them. And these are called hadas, or hadassim in Hebrew. And also to take the branches of the aravot, which means the willow tree. And it says, "And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days." And this is what the people would take together and bring to the temple and come to the Jerusalem. And for a 7-day Sukkot festival, they would say different prayers of praise and also use these in a specific way of holding them and shaking them during the worship of God. Now there are certain blessings that are related to Sukkot. One is about the taking of this mitzvah, of this commandment. And it says in English, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments." Because the idea is that God gives us things that help to purify us and refine us so that we could express divine qualities in our life. So blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the taking and the raising and the waving of this lulav with the hadassim and the aravot and the etrog. And on the very first day of the holiday, there's another blessing, and that blessing is, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and brought us to this season so we can celebrate this specific holiday." And there's also a special blessing for sitting and eating in a sukkah. And that blessing is, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to dwell in the sukkah," leshev basukkah, to sit or to dwell in the sukkah. When they come into the sukkah, there's also a beautiful prayer that's also said inside the sukkah after the blessing of sitting and eating in the sukkah. They say, "May it be your will, Lord my God and God of my ancestors, that you cause your presence to reside among us." Very, very important prayer. That you cause your presence to reside among us, that you spread over us, and this roof here is called skach, which is taken from various trees and put on the sukkah. That you spread over us the sukkah of your peace. That God's house, God's abode, is an abode of eternal peace, of eternal harmony. So the prayer is that on the earth, God should come and dwell and have his presence with us and spread us with his divine grace and cover us and protect us with his sukkah of peace. Now the sukkah itself represents God's protection and providence. And this is recorded in some of the Psalms, for example, the Psalms of David. Just hold this next. For example, in Psalm 27 it says, "The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" Very important psalm related to the holiday of Sukkot. "The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" You have to understand that the first sukkahs were built in the wilderness where there was very little of anything to drink or to eat. And many thousands of people were traveling in the wilderness for a period of approximately 40 years. And of course it was very, very hot. And occasionally they would build for themselves these sukkahs. And a sukkah is supposed to be a temporary dwelling because they would go from place to place. They'd have to knock it down and then put it back up again. Knock it down and put it back up again. And these days, the commandment is that we should, for Jewish people, to make the sukkah. And the question is, why should you make a sukkah? I mean, we have a comfortable home to live in. Why not just say these prayers and honor the holiday by living in a comfortable home? Why expose yourself to the wind and the rain and the weather and everything like that? And the rabbis say that the reason that we make the sukkah and don't stay in our home is because when we're in our home, we feel that the bricks are protecting us. The steel and the bricks and the windows and all those material aspects of life, that's what's protecting us. Of course, that's not always the case, because you can be in a very strong building and many things can happen to that building, as we know from history, both in terms of weather conditions and insane human conditions like bombs and things like that. So the message of Sukkot, is that don't be fooled by the material aspect of life. Don't think that you're protected, that your protection comes from the things of the material world, the things of the physical world. But to remember that real protection and real providence comes from the spiritual world. And the sukkah, because the roof of the sukkah is supposed to be so that you can look up and see the stars. And it's supposed to bring one more in harmony with nature, even in an environmental manner. One should be able to see the stars. One should be able to see the creation of God. And one should be reminded that the whole world exists because of God's grace and God's protection. And that's one of the fundamental themes of the Sukkah. It says, for example, in the Psalms, out of the difficulties, the narrowness, the limitations, I called upon God, and he answered me with great expansiveness. Doesn't matter how difficult the situation or the problem is, God's promise is that if you attune yourself to me through love and devotion, if you align yourself to me with love and devotion sincerely, doesn't matter what the situation is, I can handle it. I will help you to handle it. I'll help you to get through it. And it says, he answered me with great expansiveness. I was in a small place, beset with all kinds of limitations and obstacles and restrictions and troubles. And then calling upon God, giving worship to God, giving devotion to God, God creates a situation where those boundaries are broken and one can begin to live in a place of peace and infinity and eternity, which are the qualities of the divine. The psalmist, King David, goes on to say, "The Lord is for me, I will not fear. What can anyone do to me? When the Lord is my helper. Therefore I can face all obstacles." King David, who wrote the psalm, says, "It is better to take refuge in God than to rely on anything mortal." This is from Psalm number 118. So the Sukkah is a symbol. It expresses faith and trust in a supreme divine being that cares about the creation and helps to move the creation and sustain it in a loving and progressive manner. In Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not upon thine own limited understanding," meaning human understanding, human intellect, that has not yet been fully aligned with God, has a lot of limitations, has a lot of restrictions. So in the waking state of consciousness, the dreaming state of consciousness, the sleep state of consciousness, the advice is to not lean on your own limited understanding, but to trust in that level of intelligence which is divine and which is infinite and which is unbounded. In Proverbs it continues to say, "In all thy ways acknowledge him," acknowledge the Lord, "and he will direct thy path." The prophet Isaiah, the great prophet Isaiah, said, "Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and will not be afraid. For God the Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my deliverance. Therefore with joy shall we draw water out of the wells of salvation," the wells of the love of God. Also the prophet Isaiah said this, also a theme that relates to Sukkot. He said, "The mind placed on thee, the mind stayed on thee, you, God, keep in perfect peace." It's a very beautiful saying from the prophet Yeshaya, the prophet Isaiah. The mind that is placed on thee, the mind that is kept on thee, you keep in perfect peace, because it trusts in thee. Trust ye in the God forever, for the Lord is God, and he is an everlasting rock. And the symbol of a rock means something that's strong, something that can be depended upon. So God is often referred to as the rock, the foundation.